All right, John Mark's here. It is December the 5th at 3 p.m. And we are here with Judge Valdez, and she is running for re-election County Court at Law 6 with Mayor Bob Bagley, Lana Horde, Luis Pedraza, and Larry Rogers. Welcome.
All right, thank you. Thank you all for having me here today.
Sure. Well, feel free to take up to 5 minutes on your opening.
All right, thank you. When I ran the first time, I ran unopposed, so I didn't have the pleasure of sitting for a tea party interview. So I will tell you, I'm a little bit nervous, but I do appreciate you guys having me here today. Um, as John said, I am running for re-election of County Court at Law number 6. I have been on the bench since August 15, 2022, where I was appointed early. Of course, I won the primary in March of 2022, and the commissioners knew at that time with Judge Laird's court transitioning to a probate court number 1, she was very specific in her jurisdiction, so she could not handle the caseload that CCL 6 was created for. So the commissioners saw a need to go ahead and appoint me early. So I was honored to be appointed early, unanimously by all of them. So with my opening statement, I am humbly seeking a re-election. I want to continue to earn your vote for this job. I feel that I am the most qualified candidate for this position. I have 20 years of legal experience. I was licensed November 4th, 2005. Yes, that's it. So with 20 years being licensed, 18 of those 20 years I've spent in Montgomery County. So I have watched Montgomery County grow. I've watched families grow. I've watched the dynamics of our families change. And the reason I focus on families is because that is what my court does. It's designated the home court for the juvenile docket. Prior to my appointment, the creation of CCL 6, the juvenile docket rotated every 2 years between the misdemeanor courts. So 2 years with Judge Watson, 2 years with Judge Turner, and 2 years with Judge Stewart. And I know prior to that, Judge Hamilton did assist with the juvenile docket. And I'm very fortunate now she still has my power recovery court. We're going to be very sad to have her transition out when she retires. We have one more blessed year with her as our power recovery court judge for our juveniles. But clearly, the judges were seeing the need for a specific court to handle the juvenile matters. And so, with that, they also made the court a civil court. So I assist the 284th and the 457th with civil cases. Today marks the increase of my jurisdictional limits amount in controversy to $325,000. So I get to bump up with that. Also, today is the first day that all newly filed condemnation cases come to CCL 6. So we're very pleased to assist the civil courts with that as well. I'm also the de novo court for all 5 of our JPs. And what that means is if you have a case in the JP courts that are an eviction case or a small claims case or a dog case or a legal towing case, and you one of the parties appeals the ruling of the JP judge, then I am the only one exclusively that handles those de novos. And de novo is specific with that. It's not I'm not a appellate court in the general sense of reviewing and reverse and remanding or anything of that nature. It's de novo means I hear it as brand new in my court. So that's why the whole case comes up to me. We start over from the beginning with it. Time-wise, we're about to change the property code rules to 21 days from the date the case is received from the JP court on evictions to when the county court at law number 6 has to hear it. I hear them within 14 days to 21 days anyway already because of the urgency for property owners to have some kind of ending or relief to the issue. But I am, again, seeking re-election for that position. I feel like I've done an excellent job with that. And I just humbly ask for your support and your vote. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks. Let me reset this. Okay. You had mentioned this, and that's in the first question. Why are you seeking this bench? What 3 primary goals do you plan to accomplish if you're elected? the second one, you said expiration of a mental health specialty court for juvenile respondents. And if you can define that, and it says similar to the current juvenile power recovery drug court. And I'm not sure that we as lay people are really familiar with that terminology, what it means, can you elaborate what, I guess the juvenile power recovery drug, that's the first one, right? That's the existing one. And then you want to put in place a juvenile respondents
Yes, sir.
court.
Yes, sir, happily. So I just referred to it in my opening statement with the Power Recovery Court. And that is, we have several specialized courts in Montgomery County, and you probably are all more familiar with our adult courts. We have drug court, we have veterans court, Judge Hudson has a mental health court, and it's just specialized dockets where we are able to give extra care to the individuals before us. Maybe it's a special needs, maybe it's a veteran with mental health issues and who's picked up an assault and such. So instead of having something on their record, you work with them. And it's a very intense program. For our juvenile power recovery drug court, that is a very intense drug recovery court. They meet once a month. With Judge Hamilton at this time. Of course, when she retires, we will be taking that back over. But it's accountability. The parents are involved. Everyone gets UA. They take your analysis to make sure everyone is clean during the process. There is additional what we call homework assignments. So they're responsible. They have to maintain their grades. They have to maintain their attendance. They have to maintain their sobriety. And it's an intensive court to check in with these kids to make sure that we give them the help that they need and that they're on the road to recovery. So my exploration of the mental health specialty court, I'm finding, and since I took the bench, an increase of mental health issues in our young people. And a juvenile respondent is someone who's just in my court. So it's the state of Texas versus the juvenile respondent. So that's the name for the party instead of defendant. So I'm finding more and more issues of mental health, and these kids are struggling with anxiety, depression, sometimes ADD, ADHD. Sometimes they're dealing with some bipolar issues, spectrum issues, but leaning more towards the mental health of that is anxiety and depression. And so we need to focus in on getting a specialized court where we can work with these kids to ensure that they're receiving the mental health assistance that they need, making sure there's accountability for medication if they're on medication, making sure that sometimes that occurs is these kids come in either on possession charges because they're self-medicating with drugs instead of getting the therapy that they need or the mental health mental health treatment that they need. And we also looking at, similar to our Power Recovery Court, offering the family further assistance for these kids.
With the mental health, is there a common denominator or a couple that we can tie back that's causing mental health issues with these kids?
A lot of it is their access to the internet. These kids given cell phones at 10, the social media issues, for our young girls, things that we have for mental health, anxiety, and depression and such. It's body image. It's not knowing who they are. For our young men, we, these young men are like questioning who they are and what they are too. And so when I place juvenile respondents on conditions of release, those are just kind of equated in the adult world as their release terms, bonds. They're what's the term? I'm sorry. I'm trying to equate it to it. Our conditions of release were equivalent to their bond conditions. And so I take away electronics. I take away social media because I need these kids to focus on them and not these kids will sit 4 or 5 hours on a tablet or, video games 4 or 5 hours. And so what I do is I take that all away. I call it, let's go back to the 80s. And I said, we're going to focus on you. We're going to focus on strengthening our family relationship. And then if you're doing well, I will give you back a little bit at a time. Now, it's a case by case because sometimes I have kids that are on the spectrum, and so these kids calm down through a device, through a tablet, through watching a video or listening to music. So what I do is I balance that. I'll give them, instead of them wanting 3 or 4 hours, they get 30 minutes or an hour at a time.
Right.
And so that's why I try to just kind of take all the pressure that they have from social media and electronics away from them.
Amazing.
And it's this generation.
We asked what your opinion was on the Paxton case, and I think we should have not asked for your legal opinion, but your personal opinion on what took place with that.
And that's very hard for me because taking the oath of office, I'm a judge number 7. So I really can't give a legal opinion on that because, or actually a personal opinion on that
You
because
can do that, and we've gone through that before, where you still have your personal life. It doesn't mean that you're going to judge one way or another. It's just like if you wanted to say that you were pro-life, doesn't mean you're going. That's your personal belief, and you can still judge differently if the law changed that allowed abortion. That you would rule by the law, but you would still have your personal opinion. It would be like raising your kids differently than what the government says you should be doing it,
yeah.
So that's all we're asking. I just would try to find out where people stand individually.
Well,
And if you're not comfortable, I
yeah,
understand.
I took it as a question being from my professional stance
Right.
instead of my personal on that.
Right.
I think I say a lot in my first response that it's unfortunate that the judicial system is being used to weaponize disputes between parties. So I think that you can read a lot into that. But at the time, I'd rather kind of prepare on a personal side than give a personal opinion. Does that make sense, Bob? Okay.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I wanted to ask a couple of questions, and I'll ask them real quick and then let you just blend it all into your answer.
Okay.
So I understand from your answer on giving us some of your experience, you basically built the ship at County Court at Law 6. You were the inaugural judge. That's what that means. That the processes, the SOPs, everything that County Court at Law 6 has been doing was created by you and your staff. So that's quite a bit of experience there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So then the other, to put that in perspective, I wanted to draw a comparison. If you would look at one thing, you're board certified in 2 areas,
Yes.
family law and child welfare law.
Mhm.
And if you had to give an answer of about how many cases you have litigated, to put a number to that, so that I can kind of compare it to your opponent to look at her qualifications as well, to
Like,
compare and contrast.
Okay. Litigated as an attorney or heard as a judge or well, 18 years in Montgomery County is a long time. So if I'm looking at the totality of that, I would probably say I would be close to, and if you're looking at the totality of hearings that I've heard, let me just give you perspective on how many hearings I've heard just in the juvenile matter since I took the bench. It's over 9,000 hearings that I've had. I have juvenile docket 4 times a week. And so some afternoons I have 27, 28 cases. And so sometimes we're looking at 60 to 70 cases a week. Now this is initial detention hearings, subsequent detention hearings, compliance, status, announcement, adjudications. Since I've taken the bench, I've had 4 juvenile certification cases, and those are where you certify the juvenile as an adult. You consider whether or not the juvenile court should keep its jurisdiction, or based on the evidence that's presented to you, the totality of the evidence that's presented to you in the hearing, do I send this to adult court? I will say the 4 certifications that I have had, 1 has been agreed to waive juvenile jurisdiction. The other 3 I've certified as adult. The last 2 that I've had in this year were murder, first-degree murder. So the jurisdiction of my court is Class B misdemeanors up to first-degree felonies. So I would say roughly in the last 18 years, probably close to 9,000 cases. Well, litigated, close to that. So, I mean, I could be in the tens of thousands with that. If you're counting just what I've done, 9,000 there, plus all I've done in private practice, plus what I've done as CPS cases, because that docket was a very heavy docket to do. And so I averaged almost 300 cases on my docket. And Judge Tucker at the time was my partner. She was an assistant attorney with me. And so we split the docket. I think at the time I had evens, she had odd, which means the last number of the crossover was determined that. So I don't know if I broadly answered your question.
I see here, it says you're not really you're not seeking any endorsements for your reelection. In terms of campaign finance, are you taking financial um, donations from people for that?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I've had several fundraisers. I've had my campaign kickoff, and then I've had some private events. Um, and then I've had just general donations, and it's been broad spectrum across the county. And I've had significant law firm support too. Several events that I've had were with the law firms, and so it's a varying of people that have donated to my campaign. I have been very fortunate and very blessed in the amount that I have raised. As far as like seeking out endorsements at this time, of course, we're all on Facebook, and so we see endorsements flying left and right. So before I truly seek an endorsement, I want to make sure that I'm a perfect fit with the person I'm asking to endorse me. And I feel like I've done a really good job on my own, rather than someone coming up on my Facebook page saying I endorse her. Versus, I think that the reality is the experience and what I've done with the court.
And just a little bit of a follow-up on the law firms that have donated to you, though, do you think there could be any construed conflict of interest with that?
As far as them practicing in front of my court,
Right.
no, sir, it's not uncommon for law firms to donate to judicial campaigns. Under the campaign finance guide, there is a limit that they can give. But they know me well enough that once I take the bench, I am impartial, and you can donate to my campaign or not. It's not going to always matter to me. It's the case. It's the facts before me.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Graduated from Texas Tech.
Yes, sir.
So you were excited that Crichton.
I'm very excited. Funny story. I was at a judicial conference and I was on the elevator with several judges from the Lubbock area who had Texas Tech gear on. And so I asked them if they did their undergrad at Tech as well and their law school. And of course, they all had. And I said, "Are you excited about your new chancellor?" And they're like, "Well, we don't know you very well." I said, "Let me tell you about Brandon." And I did. I mean, explained that you guys have got a good guy coming up there, and he's open door policy, always listens, and so they seemed very excited about it. For me, going to Texas law school, that was a huge honor, and I actually scholarship my first year. My fourth son was 3 months old when I started law school, so all my children were born before then. And at the time, my husband at the time was in the oil field business, so I went up by myself with my boys and did law school and my boys, and I did have the help of a nanny. I did employ a nanny to assist me, but yeah. Your first year is your rough, the roughest year. It truly is. So the first day they tell you, look to your left, look to your right, because that person may not be sitting there next semester. But I was very honored to get the presidential scholarship from Lamar University to Texas Tech University for my first year.
Okay. What percent of juveniles go through rehab, and is it generally successful? So recidivism, right?
Okay. The recidivism as far as
Having to
basically,
come back to the
come,
program, yeah,
yeah.
it just didn't work for him.
Well, I, it depends because it's going to depend on the child, the juvenile, his or herself, and the family support that's going to be there. It's not uncommon for juveniles to go through either an intensive program that's inpatient or an intensive outpatient program or some type of therapeutic supplement to that. Um, I will say as far as using again, we'll have a period of them being clean and then something will happen. And as far as recovery, you're always going to have a step back. You're going to have a relapse, and that's always anticipated. And I always explain to the juvenile respondents that give yourself grace because this traditionally standard is a relapse, but we can get through that. Once we go through that first relapse, we have a huge success rate. I would say in the range of about 75–80% that we get them on the other side. And once we get them on the other side, then there's no reason for them to come back to court if we're handling it formally or if they're on a formal probation. Because I only see them when they mess up. And some kids, I feel like I need to see a little bit more. And so I will keep them coming back like every 6 weeks for a check-in. We do high fives, fist bumps, I give hugs. I recognize that they're trying very hard. But at least it really depends on the family too, the support for the kid.
Oh, what area of criminal justice needs the most urgent reform? And what have you done to promote the reform? But we recently had bail reform. The voters voted for the reform. Do you have any idea what this reform looks like?
For the adult system,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's supposed to be tougher on the defendants.
On getting the bail?
On getting the bail, yes. And in memory, I think that if they have a certain degree, like a first degree felony, maybe bail can be denied if it's like a offense against a child or something along those lines. So I think that definitely our legislators need to make sure that it's spelled out with that. But I do think that Harris County is a good example if we see just watching the news of where bail reform was needed. And I know that definitely was in the last election for us to consider. I think it's a good thing. Yes, sir. Yes.
Back to experience level.
Yes.
I noted you graduated from law school in 2005. Is that right?
2003.
2003.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So in effect, when I look at experience and how long you've been practicing law, I can't help but note that your opponent was 12 years of age at the point when you graduated from law school.
Yes. Yeah, and I want to say, I think my oldest son, when I graduated law school, he was born in 87.
Yeah.
So I think he's definitely a little bit older than she was at that time.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Not
Yeah.
to negate what she's accomplished,
Yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
the experience is also based upon the time in the trenches, and you've been in the courtroom and at the bench for quite a bit of time.
Yes.
I liked your answer, the more in-depth answer you gave about recidivism, because you obviously have thought it through. You had 4 different areas that you said it's important
Yes,
that we
ma'am.
do these things, and you seem to understand the dynamics of why youth appear back in your court and what you can do to stop that. Could you elaborate a little bit about that?
Oh, yes, but let me make sure I'm on the same question with you when I answer that.
Okay.
Yes, I see it right here. Yes. So, again, as I laid out, if you have the lack of support from the parents or educational or socioeconomical support in the youth's lives, the inconsistent programs to address the youth's mental health and emotional well-being, unmet educational needs, influences socially and environmentally in the youth's life, and then the economical hardships upon the family. So this is what I noticed, and family is at my heart. And if you ever try to, we all question what is our purpose in life. And so I started out as a very young mother, and then I had babies along when I was going to college and such, and did a lot of it by myself since my husband was in the oil business. But and you question why the struggles, the trials and tribulations that you go through. I'm actually where I'm supposed to be in helping families because, and I embrace what Charlie Kirk says, you have a strong family, you have a strong nation. Because these young people that are in my court at this time, in CCL 6 at this time, they're going to be taking care of us. They're our future. And if we do not do something to address their needs, then they're going to keep coming back into the system, and then they're going to end up in the adult system. And then once they end up in the adult system, then they're a burden upon all of us as taxpayers. And so we're just, the more and more that we have in prison, the more and more it takes away from other things that our tax dollars could be spent on. So my goal is that you can mess up, you can make poor choices in the juvenile court because this is your trial run at being a grown up. I'm going to hold you to standards. I'm going to hold you to the rules. I'm going to hold you to accountability. If you mess up, I'll give you grace, but my rules are hard and I enforce my rules. And I just said yesterday on the bench, yesterday morning, I am a Grinch when it comes to breaking my rules at Christmas. I will keep you in detention at Christmas time. And so we have to have the parental support. And so some of these cases, I feel like we're on a hamster wheel. Poor parental skills because they had poor skills that they received from their parents. And so it's just that cyclical thing. So that's where my forethought, my investment with community organizations, working with child advocates in Montgomery County, working with Mosaics of Mercy, we get in and we help these families. Because if I have a parent, single parent household, and that parent is going through his or her own crisis, they can't parent. They are sometimes I have a mother that's working 3 or 4 jobs, um, trying just to keep the lights on. If we bring them to our community's resources that we have to help them along the way and we guide them, and it's like, you teach them to fish and they can they'll I can't remember the saying right off, but not give them a fish, but teach them to fish. Then they're going to have the skills to go forward. And sometimes I have to teach them how to parent, and I have to tell them how to make boundaries and set rules. So when I utilize my ad litems through my Justice Involved Youth Program, these are kids that have agreed to go on probation. They've agreed to be adjudicated, which basically is found guilty. We call it found true. And then they agree to go on probation. And at that point in time, I've got a year that we can work with these families, work with these kids. And sometimes my orders include, and I do have the jurisdiction to order the parents to go to parent therapy. They'll go to therapy themselves. If I have a situation, and this is where I believe that our legislators were brilliant in putting the juvenile code as Title III of the family code. Because I have the family code, I have the child welfare code all wrapped up in one book. And the legislators understood that the juvenile dynamics were family law, civil dynamics, and not the quasi-criminal. So they come in on the quasi-criminal charge, but we handle it through the civil process. So this way, I've had cases where I've had young people, they have conflict between mom and dad because they got a divorce. So now I've got a child that's lost in the middle of the divorce using THC or marijuana just to cope with the situation. So I can order the parents to do co-parenting classes together. And if you don't do it, then you're in contempt of court, and then I utilize my contempt powers that I have. I haven't had to do it because I give them bring a toothbrush speech that I learned from Judge Gilbert, meaning I mean business. And so when you come back, you haven't done this, then I'll keep you in jail for the weekend, and I'll see you on Monday morning and we'll talk. But it's just that extra bit to hold them accountable, to make sure that they understand we mean business. I've not ever had anyone not do what I've asked of them. I also, as a family law judge, would explain to parents in conflict, this child is half of you, mom, and half of you, dad. At some point in time, you loved one another when you created this child. So we can't talk bad about one another because that is detrimental to this child. And so that's just one of many things that we do to work with the families and support them and offer them that help. And the Justice Involved Youth Program actually even goes further because they can see the community resource needs. So maybe maybe they need some food, or maybe they do need directions for assistance with the light bill, or rent, or their car repaired, just to keep, because these people are paycheck to paycheck and sometimes past paycheck to paycheck. And so the Justice Involved Youth Program is set up to help that youth succeed on probation. And we've seen a huge success with that. So,
So what do you think, it's not necessarily on here, the biggest kind issues are for the court, and how are you dealing to try to improve that? Do you think it's drugs within the kids, mental instability? So what do you think that is the largest volume of cases you see, and how are you kind of addressing that?
okay. The largest volume I probably see is possession cases, and these are coming from schools. You know, they're doing drugs at school.
Uh-huh.
And I know that CISD created a first offender program, so that's to help them not even come into the juvenile court. And so that's been really successful. Um, but then you get those kids, but if they get a second offense, then now they're back in my court. So with the possession cases, and then the next thing that we see is sometimes assault, family violence, where it is fighting within. And so maybe there is some significant trauma in the family. Maybe there is a little bit of abuse on the parents' part of the child, and the child's now at the age of like, I'm going to fight back. Or it ties into the mental health aspect of it. If the child has some unmet mental health needs, then usually the prefrontal cortex is not developed, so they can't ration that I shouldn't scream and yell at my mom or push my mom or throw something at my dad. And so I put in an anger management class for them to understand. At the bench, when I'm visiting with the kids to release them on their conditions, we talk about my TBRI skills, because that's something I'm very, very proud that I'm a TBRI practitioner, that I bring that into the courtroom. It's a trauma based relational intervention. And so what it is I recognize and focus in on the trauma within the family, um, and address those needs and handle it's just a little extra care of handling. And so you offer compromises, assistance, and things of that nature. So I'll tell a young person that, all right, so we'll just kind of just do like a little role play. You get upset because your Xbox was taken away. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to take 10 deep breaths and we're going to walk away from the situation and come back calmly to the situation. Sometimes we have moms, and I'm guilty of this with my 4 sons, but moms being insistent of nagging and just following and yeah, and just staying on the child, and the child's already at the max capacity of frustration, and so then the kid's just going to react. And I've seen those cases, and so we just tell mom, okay, at some point we're going to use our words and you need to walk away from the situation and then come back and talk about it. But I stand behind the parents. So I tell the kids, I said, my first and foremost rule is you shall follow all the rules in the home. You shall, and I even go further. It's yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's yes, sir, no, sir. You are going to have a high level of respect for your parents, and that starts there. If you want respect, you have to give respect. And so I stand by their rules. And so I may not have every rule laid out in my conditions of release, but that's where I give the parents. You're the parent, use your mom powers, use your dad powers, make the rules and make them mind. So
Good, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, good.
A lot of people that will be watching this,
Yes, sir.
and I was guilty of the same. You were appointed as a associate judge. Please explain the way that works. You get out of law school, and then what happens?
Okay. Well, this is very specialized in that I was appointed in 2017 as the associate judge for the 418th District Court. Mind you, I had already had 5+ years experience as a child welfare attorney. I had already had the better part of almost 5 years in private practice. And so when the court is looking for their associate judge, they're going to make sure and ensure that this person is qualified and experienced in handling litigation, because they want someone who can just step in and hear jury trials. That's the main thing is to have courtroom experience. in this area of law. And so I was very well versed in family law and child welfare law at the time that I was appointed with that. For that, that's an elected official who gets to select the associate judge. So I went through an interview process with Judge Gilbert, and he selected me as his associate judge. And so that's how that process comes about. Really, if I had not had the experience I had as a child welfare attorney, as a family law practitioner, in such in the level of courtroom experience, the level of bench trials I had, the level of mediations that I had been through, and the level of jury trials that I had prior to 2017, I don't know that I would have been a good candidate for the associate judge's position. You wanted, and as I see as the sitting judge at this time, you have to have an immense understanding of the rules of civil procedure, the rules of evidence, and the area of law that's before you, because it is game on, like warfare. When you've got a jury trial and you've got jurors in the box, and then you have the attorneys going back with, well, objection on this, and you've got a rule like this. So you have to know the rules of evidence, like the back of your hand, and the rules of procedure, because in civil law, those are the technicalities that can win a case. So if you didn't respond appropriately to discovery responses, you get in there and you file a motion to strike and motion to exclude their discovery responses because they were untimely, or you can actually take someone's expert out based on your complete understanding of the rules of procedure. If they didn't designate timely, if they didn't designate properly, then as a judge, I look at the argument, the evidence that they present on that, and then I have to rule. And you have to do everything like this. So before I even go into my jury trials, I already have my notebook and I already know the case inside and out. I already have my checklist of the elements that they have to prove on their case. Already and can anticipate what objections we're going to have. And I hold a pretrial conference 10 days before the trial, the jury trial especially, because my goal is not to waste my jurors' time, because my jurors are sacrificing their day, their childcare, their work. They could have big projects that are due, but we've got them in on a juror summons, and I'm holding them basically captive. And so my goal is to not waste their time. So any issues that could come up in a jury trial, we hash that out 10 days before at a pretrial conference. And sometimes my pretrial conferences are a couple of hours, but we think of every single thing. So
Everything.
everything we can try. But you know what? That's why it's like the practice of law. Because I learned, so there may be something when I first took the bench that was like, oh, that was new to me. And, or maybe I didn't handle that in a way that I should have. So I've done a lot of research. So that doesn't escape me now. It's like one of those things, you don't make the same mistake twice or such. And that's even when I was a lawyer too. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. So next time I nailed it. So, yeah.
Do you, I guess now that you mentioned, you said when you were a lawyer, now you're a judge, do you have to keep all the lawyer certifications up, even though you're a judge?
My board
Taking a class?
certifications?
Yeah, board
Oh,
certification.
well, yes. And I think I elaborated on the judicial hours that we have to have.
Mhm.
But I also, one of the benefits of being a judge is I can watch prior CLEs through the Texas State Bar, and they don't charge us that. So instead of me leaving my office to attend something that's put on by the state bar, now the judicial requirements are separate from the state bar. So when you become a judge, you don't necessarily have to have hours as a practicing lawyer. But you've got to keep up with the law and you have to know the law. So I get my judicial hours in, and then I supplement that. So I'm kind of a nerd in that sense. I will watch CLEs on the weekend. And, we've got all the law, in every 2 years, our laws change. So I've got to come up on, and this is the interesting thing about the civil docket is because we've got breach of contract, we have personal injury. I have workers' comp cases. I have negligent tort. I have all kinds of tort cases. So even eviction cases, they made a substantial change to the property code. So I've got to come up on that. So I'm always watching CLEs to make sure I stay on top of everything.
And you're double board certified in family law and child welfare.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Impressive.
And,
Yeah.
and I will tell you that, again, my nerd goal is to become board certified in juvenile law. So I just don't feel like I have the experience just in 3 years. I feel like I need a couple of more years of experience. And to even apply for your board certification, you have to have so many cases behind you, like in juvenile jury trials and certification cases. And my certification cases at this time, I said I have 4, but are I have to brag just in my 25 seconds that are left. We have the best juvenile department here in Montgomery County that works so well with our Montgomery County Attorney's Office and our managed assigned defense counsel that I have yet to have a jury trial in a juvenile case. I almost did, but then the state dismissed the charge or the allegations, so I didn't. And I was actually kind of excited. I was looking forward to having that, but they work so well together.
Speaking of that, do you have backlogging cases or you caught up?
Oh, no, sir, I have no backlog.
No backlog?
No, sir. And I will tell you that's the efficiency of my court because we are running reports every 60 days. And so if I usually put you on a trial docket within 9 months of a civil case coming to me, my juvenile cases, I will let them go for about 8 to 9 months, and then I have a status conference to see where we're at. It's very rare that I take a case past 18 months. Now, sometimes I will inherit a case that's past 18 months, but it's very rare for my court to have a case that goes past 18 months. And I stay on top of everything.
How safe do you feel in the courthouse with prisoners traveling the same areas that you and victims travel?
And that's in our criminal court. I will tell you, I have streamlined my juveniles coming in and out. So the main courthouse is basically our civil courthouse. Then we have the annex, and then we have the felony courts. So the criminals coming in and adult criminals coming in and out are in 2 separate buildings from the way we are. For me, the duty and obligation that I have to keep my courtroom safe, I streamline where my juveniles enter and exit. And so they're on I'm directionally challenged, but the south side of the courthouse, the main courthouse, so like Guadalajara's is right across the street, there is an entrance and an exit through the stairwell that is completely locked, so citizens cannot come through there.
Just for judges, correct?
Well, there's a judge's garage right there to it, but the juveniles can come in because we have our bailiffs will oversee the transport of our juveniles. Now they come in shackled, so they have belly chains and ankle, their wrist with a belly chain, and their ankles are shackled. And so we treat it just like adult offenders coming in. So they go up the stairs, and I'm on the first floor, so they have to go up just a flight, and then they enter through the back way. So we don't have them interacting with families or just citizens or such. So I keep that very safe now.
Is that going through the parking garage, that area?
Yes, so the parking garage is here and the stairwell's here. So the stairwell goes up here. So you never have to go inside the judge's parking garage. It's on the outside of it.
Okay.
So I can give you a tour if you want. but yes, so the stairwell is here, the judge's parking garage is here. And then from the judge's parking garage, you can enter into the basement. So, which we rarely have the judges going back up there. Just Judge Tucker and I are the only 2 courts that abut that stairwell on the first floor. Okay. And Judge Santini and Judge Bays on the second floor, they abut the same stairwell, but they have no one coming in and out there.
But in the halls themselves, there's no commingling.
No, we clear all that out. So there's not on our side. On
the other
is
side.
a different story over there. And I've been over there when they've done that, and it's very scary. It's very concerning.
Yeah. Awesome. I want to ask you a quick question so that I can be educated to frame my question better. So on December 3rd, you got eminent domain under you locally. And what was that limit you said if the case goes up to a certain dollar amount? 325,000. Okay, great. I wanted to make sure I heard that right.
Now, eminent domain is excluded from that.
Oh, okay. So it's just condemnation, but not eminent domain.
Well, they're kind of one and the same. The condemnation and eminent domain, they're kind of one and the same.
Yeah, one has to happen before the other.
Right, exactly.
Right. Okay.
And so the way that it is, the statute is written is that like my amount in controversy doesn't apply to that. I'm assigned to that
Right?
matter.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so. So I know there were some changes back in 2005 with a Senate bill that basically changed some of the authority more locally. Whereas before that, we had had a very controversial light rail project based on eminent domain that was for like statutory use for infrastructure. And then they redefined it and said, basically if it's private gain for a private party, then it's off limits. But you say in your questions, your philosophy is judicial restraint, not judicial activism. How are you going to apply that now that we have a little more local control to those domino decisions of condemnation that ultimately will impact eminent domain?
Yes. Well, I will follow the law as written. So I will not go outside the purview of the law itself. So I don't believe in judicial activism. It's not my place to legislate from the bench. And so whatever is written in the four corners of the statute, what I follow. Now I will say if there is case law that's applicable to that, either the Ninth Court of Appeals, because it's binding on me, or the Texas Supreme Court, if they come down with something in case law, then that will be applied as well too. But other than that, I do not believe in legislating from the bench.
So, how would you measure success? I mean, you're gonna run again for a term. What do you kind of think this is gonna be your career path? For you love it enough to think that until you can't do it anymore. Is that?
Someone asked me just the other day, well, what's next? And I was like, oh, I have not even thought about what's next because I'm kind of in it for the long haul on this because I want to make a huge difference. And we all know when new things come up, he's going to have over time before you truly see the success in it. And so at this point, with 3 years in, I'm just at the brand new success of it. So if you're asking me if my intent is to not only run for this term, if I have another term, if I'm seeking another term, I believe that's what you're asking me. That is my goal. Now, I'm going to tell my age. I'll be 58 in April. And
You're being recorded.
I understand. So that's why I go to the hairdresser every 4 weeks. At some point in time, I have my grandchildren too. So of my 4 sons, my 2 oldest ones have grandbabies. And so I have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 5-year-old. My 5-year-old is special needs. He is level 2 autistic, nonverbal. And so, and again, you're a grandparent, your passion with your grandbabies arises, and so that is my passion, is to have a greater understanding of autism. And I'm seeing more and more children on the spectrum in my courtroom too. And so I think I approach those cases from my heart with my grandmother. Lenses on, and there's just a different way that you have to interact with those kids. So my goal is, and I would say, I would love 2 more terms. And I feel at that point in time, with me being, at the end of almost my first term, probably close to about 68 or so. And at some point in time, I want to, my younger 2 sons, one's 28, one's 25. And they're just at the point of finding their future spouses, and I know that they're going to have these someday. But I see myself at 68 taking an active role in autism and hopefully be more informed of causes and concerns. We've got a long road to ahead of that, but I'm constantly doing research on that. So
You could certainly be an advocate seeing what you see on the front end of that coming in.
Yeah.
And of course with Kennedy, and we had someone that we interviewed before this morning. They came in that's run for ex-secretary or a commissioner, and basically the same platform that Kennedy's talking about. That it's really impacting the kids. And I think basically
Proper food.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that.
What's in our food?
Nutrition basically. I think what you're seeing in the courtroom, you can go out and take the information that you find from nutrition research, I guess, and advocate for that, for changes in law and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I don't feel like the field was finished with me yet. I think that this, again, every rung of my ladder of success that I've had in my career leads to something else. And, you know, just starting out as a child welfare attorney and seeing, and I will tell you, we have probably 10%, sometimes 20% of my juvenile docket are kids who are in CPS custody. So my knowledge that I carry with me of child welfare is invaluable because I know the policies and procedures of CPS, so I can hold them accountable. And I will tell you, I have seen where sometimes CPS wants to kick the can now that the child has gotten an allegation, a criminal allegation, was like, well, we're going to pass it over to the juvenile court. And I was like, no, ma'am. So I hold CPS just accountable because they are a managing conservative, they're a legal guardian. So
And you served as a child
Mhm.
protective services
I did.
prosecutor as well.
yes, yes, and that was invaluable because when I went into private practice, I had a lot of family members seek me out to represent them as interveners in CPS cases. So CPS would find another person that was not even related to these children, and I was a grandparent advocate. So I was an intervener for grandparents, and I won. I got children to their grandparents where they needed to be. Yeah. I'm sorry, I have to talk all day.
One quick thing that I wanted to point out. You said you save our taxpayers upwards of $4,000 a month by interpreter cost. Explain that.
Yes, sir. So when there's a shortage of interpreters, and we've gone through our fair share of issues with the courthouse with trying to keep an interpreter on staff. Well, everybody needs an interpreter, and the criminal dockets take precedence. Well, I have a lot of my cases, I have Spanish-speaking only families. And this is where, when you pray about picking your staff, this is where it comes in handy because the young lady that's my administrator, she worked with Montgomery County's Office of Indigent Defense. And I told her we were having hangups in our docket because I couldn't get an interpreter over, not the one that we retained for the county. And so then to get an interpreter to come, it's $400 minimum a day. They have to rate. And so I did some numbers for you. So if I did 400 times 4, so if I had 4 dockets a week, then that's 6,400, and then times the monthly, $400 a week times 4 times a month, that's $6,400 a month. So thinking outside the box and being innovative, my administrator suggested to me, she said, Judge, she goes, I heard about through the Texas Office of Court Administration that they offer free interpreters via Zoom on uncontested matters. Well, 90, I would say almost 100% of my juvenile docket is uncontested. So I had a meeting with the gentleman that was had it, and we talked about how this was going to work. I got with IT, made sure I had my cameras correctly. I added an additional phone with 2 independent phone jacks, and then I ordered a headset for the juveniles because I can't have them holding a phone, so because I don't want them to use it as a weapon. And so I have a headset for them, and we schedule an interpreter every time I have docket, and so usually it's about 30 minutes because I have anywhere from either 1 to maybe 5 cases on detention or initial detention dockets, and by doing that, I have 0 interpreter cost.
Wow.
0. So, and that's how just being innovative, think outside the box. So the interpreter will be on the Zoom screen, so everybody can see them on the monitors in my courtroom, and I can see them right next to me on my monitor. And the interpreter will interpret in Spanish with their microphone off, and then he will turn his mic on, or she will turn their mic on and interpret or say in English what they said. Now, here's the beauty. I'm not going to say I'm bilingual, but my undergrad major was Spanish. And my husband is Hispanic, and I love that about him, Mike. And a good portion of what's being said, so I can grasp a little bit. So I'm kind of ahead of the game when the interpreter says what the family has said, then I'm already prepared with my next question or a comment on that. So I wish I was like officially bilingual. I am definitely, my husband will speak to me in Spanish and I'll answer in English. He goes, what are you doing? You know, I'm trying to help you. And I'm like, so, but I'm very, very proud of that innovativeness and thinking, but that was a blessing to my staff member who had knowledge of that.
Great.
So,
One more.
Yeah, there's a question about should the state license barbers, lawyers, and other professions? Why or why not? I'll let you answer that, and then I'll
that's some questions.
I'll just chime in.
All right. Well, and my answer is pretty straightforward that in any career field with interaction to the public, oversight by the government of the specific career is not unreasonable if the protection of the public safety and well-being outweighs the private interest of the person. So in that instance, and I'm trying to give a hypothetical on that, and I can speak from a lawyer. So if we had rogue lawyers taking people's money, we had no oversight through licensure, then this person could just do what they wanted to do and steal from clients and never do what they're contractually agreed to do. And so I think that is one way that the government, although keeping it a very limited government perspective, no overreaching in that, but I think that's one way that the government can protect the public. You know, with these massage parlors and stuff, and clients going in and then getting sexually assaulted in there, if they didn't license the masseuse and such, they wouldn't have any teeth to kind of punish them in a civil aspect. They can go after them criminally, but if they are able to take their license away, then they've now detrimentally affected them to the benefit of the public, protecting the public from them.
I think a lot of the licenses they've talked about doing with different um, occupations, like a welder. You have to be a certified welder to do certain jobs. Why do I have to go to the state to get permission and pay to um, to get them to regulate me when you're already regulated within the industry? And there's a lot of that. The reason it's brought up is because a lot of people just feel like it's another cash cow for the government. And there's some like lawyers that it should be. The pilots out in the shipyard need to have regulations over them. But it's just overstretching, overreaching, I think, for the government. And again, the money that's coming in for it, it just seems like it's not fair.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that because I think it gets back down to the balance of the public safety and the well-being versus the private interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the question is, if a welder has to be certified and has to pay these fees, I mean, what harm would this welder pose to the public that the government should intervene, and how reasonable is that?
Right.
Which I think from what you're saying, that doesn't sound very reasonable.
Right.
So I would agree with that.
Thanks.
Okay, we've hit that point. We're going to take 5 minutes on your closing, and then we'll call it a wrap.
Okay. All right. So thank you all so much. I actually have really enjoyed this. My nerves went away when I got to start speaking about the law, and obviously you can see that my eyes light up, and I'm very passionate about what I do, and I enjoy what I do, and that's why I again just humbly ask for your support for reelection, and I will continue to earn your support. I think when I took the bench. And starting it from ground zero. I tell you all in my answers that everything in County Court at Law number 6 has been well thought out and has been, I jokingly say my DNA is on everything in there as far as policies and standing orders and such. And when the new rules come down from the legislation, or let's just say rules of judicial administration, because I did have something on Rule 17 about juveniles being unshackled in court, you have to be innovative. You have to think outside the box, because my obligation is to the people in the courtroom for their protection and safety. Um, I believe that I'm the candidate of choice because my qualifications matter, my experience matters. This is not a willy-nilly courtroom. It's not just a justice courtroom. It's more than just the civil courtroom with the juvenile aspect component to it. And I think that, no, I'm going to say I know that I can continue to do a success that I have done. I just ask for you all to have confidence and faith in me to continue and let me explore the new things that I want to explore with mental health programs. Judge Laird and I have talked, and I think we're going to work in tandem to get the black hole that's between her mental health court that Judge Seiler has taken over and my juvenile court when we're dealing with extreme mental health issues. There is just nowhere for these kids to go, and we need to correct that. I think I am the person that can bring a lot of experience, knowledge to assist with that. Um, with that, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure to serve as the first judge of County Court at Law Number 6. I will tell you, I was afraid that I didn't have the experience because I wasn't a civil attorney per se, and I didn't have juvenile experience. I sought out those professionals before I even considered to run, and I had so much response with faith in me that I could do it. I feel that you just, you, while the idea of being a judge is magical to some people and such, it is a very hard job. The juvenile code requires that the juvenile court be always in session. So I am 24 hours in session. I've had the Christmas Eve phone call, Judge, we've got a kid in crisis, we're gonna have to transport. What do you want us to do? Judge, we've got one of our juvenile respondents going into labor. What do we do? I feel like being a mother and a grandmother that I, like me personally, I bring so much more to this court that it needs. It needs a greater understanding of families, of the family dynamic. And having raised children and being a part of my grandchildren's lives, I understand the family dynamics more and more. And I would say my why, my purpose is to build a stronger family base here in Montgomery County. So we'll have to continue with the successful county that we have. And we will have those young people guided to take care of us in our older age when we get there. But again, I believe that if the average voter or the voter would look at the qualifications and look at the experience, I have the judicial temperament to continue. I work very well with the people in front of me. We have such an amazing team. I'm 24/7 access all times. You want a hearing, you get a hearing. I got a trial set the day after, let's see, the January 2nd, I have a trial set. So I'm working and I constantly work. I work from home too on the weekends. I catch up with the queue. So it's judge sounds glamorous and it is, but it's a hard job and you have to be able to 100% commit to it. And I am 100% committed to it. I call this my baby now because my sons are grown. I'm still raising my husband, but but my, yeah, that's a full time job.
You wanted to be sure.
I did. I wanted them to see that. But I
Save
just,
that till the end.
yeah, I just want you to know that if you entrust me with your vote, that I'm going to do the best that I can.
Well, thanks, Charlene.
Okay.
Appreciate you coming in, or Judge.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
sure.
yeah, contact.
Oh, so oh yes. Oh gosh, now I'm at a loss. Keep Judge Valdez at keepjudgevaldez.com. That's my website. My campaign phone number is on there. I have a QR code that can link you to everything. So go to my website, and I think most people have my cell phone number. Text me. I am available on Messenger too. I spend about 30 minutes in the evening, each evening going through, because people do contact you on Messenger and sometimes they have questions. Sometimes I can answer, sometimes I can't, but I'm always very honest about that, or I'll send them where they can find the answer to on that. So keepjudgevaldez.com.
Great. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much. Good
Thank
luck
you.
in your campaign.
Thank you so much.
Sure.